Welcome to Twisted Tragedies, where we follow all the twists and turns wherever they lead. I am your fearless leader, Elise, and welcome. Happy Sunday, everybody. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Sundays are always bittersweet because you know you have to go back to school or work or whatever the next day. Obviously, when the kids have school, they had Friday off for the holiday. And we have, Thanksgiving upcoming, which is going to be fun. Lots of fun. Parent-teacher conferences, all that fun stuff. So I have a couple things tonight, and Maya Kowalski, something I've wanted to go over for a little bit now because her story is so powerful. And anybody who hasn't seen the Maya Kowalski story or the story, pertaining to the Kowalski family, there's actually a Netflix documentary called Take Care of Maya. And it's definitely something that you should watch if you haven't seen it before. Take Care of Maya is basically the story is Maya has a rare disease, and her rare disease is pain related. Let me get this up here for you. Hold on. Sad nonetheless. They had a long trial. It's called CRPS. It's a pain sort of syndrome. Awesome. Always. So let me get this up on the screen for you guys real quick. Share screen. Here we go. So they awarded $261 million to the Kowalski family. This is actually, when I bring it up here, is going to be the trailer to the Netflix documentary. And it's something you guys should see real quick. It's sad. The documentary itself, very truthful. Everything they did was with the Kowalski family. Beata Kowalski is the mother, and she committed suicide in 2017 because of this.
We build a family with love, honesty, trust. We as parents tried to...
I mean, it's already out. It's been out. But Maya Kowalski's family has been through fucking hell. Basically, back in 2017, the hospital sort of doctor that was contracted out of the hospital, which makes no sense to me, accused Beata Kowalski of Munchausen's by proxy. And a lot of times, hospitals or child services in whatever states will use Munchausen's by proxy as a way to retaliate against a parent who knows a lot about medical or who pushes medical. Like if they go into the doctors and they say, no, my daughter needs this medication and this amount, because you're going into an ER that doesn't know anything about your child, and they've been treated by multiple doctors, and you know what your child needs. So if you are too forward about what they need, if you know too much, about a rare disease that they don't know anything about, oftentimes they will retaliate and they will say Munchausen's by proxy. And that's exactly what they did here. And they took Maya Kowalski from her mother. They kept her hostage in John Hopkins All Children's Hospital. I think that's what it's called, right? Yeah. And so they won this suit. It went on for a while. It was just ended not that a couple days ago, I think. And it says they were found liable for multiple other charges, including medical negligence, fraudulent billing, and intentional infliction of emotional distress on Beata and Maya. The Kowalski family was awarded $211 million and $50 million punitive damages. And then it says that, 2016. The family story first began in 2016 when Maya was checked into the Johns Hopkins Children's Hospital for excruciating stomach pain. She had been previously diagnosed with a rare neurological condition known as complex regional pain syndrome. But hospital staff questioned the diagnosis and her symptoms. Again, rare condition. They do it all the time, When Beata requested that they treat Maya with ketamine, a treatment she had received before with positive results. The hospital staff accused her of Munchausen syndrome by proxy and medical child abuse. The accusations led to Maya being temporarily placed in state custody, during which she remained in the hospital for over 3 months, away from her family. Maya said in an interview earlier this year that she felt like she had been medically kidnapped, which she was. Beata died by suicide in January 2017 after 2 months of Maya being separated from the family. She was 43 at the time of her death. Beata wrote in an email that was later discovered, "I'm sorry, but I no longer can take the pain being away from Maya and treated like a criminal. I cannot watch my daughter suffer in pain and keep getting worse." Beata's death spurred the Kowalskis to sue for $220 million, accusing Johns Hopkins Children's Hospital of false imprisonment and emotional distress. The family's attorney, Greg Anderson, said the hospital caused Beata, in the end, to lose completely and utterly her ability to control her maternal instinct, and the fact outweighed the survival instinct. Howard Hunter, the hospital's lead counsel, said the hospital staff complied with mandatory reporting law and they plan to appeal the verdict. Well, they can appeal all they want. They're not going to win it. That's my belief. The facts and the law remain on our side. We will continue to defend the life-saving and compassionate care provided to Maya Kowalski, except there was no compassionate care. Let's just make something clear here. Maya Kowalski was held down. Okay? Held down. I watched some of it, Debbie. I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but I watched some of it, and I kept up with a lot of it. But Maya Kowalski was held down while they took pictures of her in her underwear. And she was told she had to. That is not, abiding by any sort of order. That's abuse, which is what they found on the worker. Maya Kowalski's mother, Beata, wasn't even allowed to mention God on the phone to her. Like, that's a problem. Like, you can't do that. That's not a thing. Separation of church and state, yeah. And Patriotic points out a very good point. Justina Pelletier lost her case. She should have won. She was medically kidnapped as well, here in Boston. It's sick. It happens all the time. But Beata thought there was no way out. She thought her only way was to be able to commit suicide, and they would let her daughter out. And lo and behold, what happened? They let her daughter out. They let her daughter out after she committed suicide. And some disgusting text messages between these doctors, like, oh, well, the fake sick kid's mother committed suicide. She's better off. Like, they wrote some sick, like, disgusting, utterly disgusting things. Because why? Because Beata was a nurse and she knew better. Beata knew better. She was a nurse. She knew what they had already been through. Maya had to be brought to an entirely different country to have the ketamine treatments, because in the United States, they're only allowed to go up to a certain amount, and she needed more. They put her in a medically induced coma, and she it's to like reset, basically. This treatment that a doctor told them about is what they did for her. And because they did that, when they went to Johns Hopkins All Children's for help, they used that against her. They used against her rare disease, which has happened to so many parents. If you look up the statistics of how many parents with kids with rare diseases that have been accused of Munchausen's by proxy, the number is staggering. Why? Because they keep using the signs and symptoms as a thing that any parent would do. So if you're too pushy, too forward about a specific medication or a specific treatment, those are all signs and symptoms. Those are what any normal parent would do if they know it's going to help their child. Like, yeah, hospitals. But again, this is used as a retaliatory thing. Schools even do it. If you question them and you say, this isn't right, I don't agree with this, or you push back, guess what? You are now the enemy, and they will now use everything they can against you. They'll twist it. They'll move it around. They'll do whatever they need to do to use it against you. And Maya Kowalski's family has been through hell. Hell. That trial was pushed back on them numerous times. Maya was devastated. Devastated. If you haven't seen Take Care of Maya on Netflix, you really need to, because it lays out, the entirety of what happened to her. And it just gets worse if you go and listen into the trial. And of course, their attorney is just saying, like, oh, we're following DCF's orders and, blah, blah, blah. Like, no. So you don't get to follow orders of someone if they're unlawful, if they're unethical. It's not the way it works. It's still your job, just like a cop. If your boss, if your chief says, shoot that guy, and he's unarmed, you don't shoot that guy. It's unethical, right? Like, it's illegal. You don't just do it because someone told you to do it. And you can't just use the excuse of, oh, we did it because we were told to. So someone told you to hold Maya Kowalski down in her underwear while she's kicking and screaming back to take pictures of her. Well, even touch hurts her. That was part of her rare disease, that even touch felt like it was extreme pain to her. So you guys thought that was a great idea. All in all, them saying that she didn't have this syndrome while billing her insurance for the exact same syndrome they were saying she didn't have. That would be fraudulent billing. Hi, Denise. Very fraudulent. It's not a thing. It's not a thing. Like, the fact alone that they sat there and said Maya Kowalski didn't have, what she had, and then to say, we're going to bill the insurance for the disease that we're claiming she doesn't have, and we're claiming that her mother, that her mother is Munchausen's by proxy, but we're going to still bill the insurance for the disease that we claim that she doesn't have. Like, no, that's absurd. That's absurd. It was very sad, Debbie. It was extremely sad. Like, I mean, all in all, we're talking about, she was a kid. I mean, she's 17 now, Maya Kowalski, but back then she was just a kid, and you're torturing this kid. Like, I mean, it's sad. It's very, very, very sad. Like, if you watch the documentary, the pain in those families, like each one of them, their faces, like their mom is now missing from the family. Why? Because the mom knew the only way out for Maya. And also, to add, there was a doctor that told her, the doctor that originally helped them find this experimental, thing that helped her out in a different country, is the doctor that called, All Children's Hospital and said, it's not Munchausen's by proxy. This child does have a rare disease. I've treated this child, and they ignored him completely. They utterly ignored him, right? Completely and utterly ignored the doctor that had already treated her. Who does that? Oh, that's right. Terrible people. It's a good question, Ted. I wonder, if there will be now. This was a civil trial, but in my opinion, probably because you can't charge a hospital because it's not a person, but anyone involved in that, I mean, they found fault with the doctor. They found fault with the social worker. Those people should be charged, in my opinion. Like, they should be charged. But that's why we tell these stories, right? We tell these stories so that we can change things for the better, so that people can understand that this should never happen, but that it does all the time. Maya Kowalski's case isn't unique. This has happened to many people. And yes, Justina Pelletier is a good, good one to use, because that one, a lot of people, especially here in this state in Massachusetts, know about. It's really sad. Like, Maya Kowalski and her family did not deserve what the hell happened to her. Maya Kowalski herself had to live in pain every day because they didn't want to give her what they thought was too high a dose of ketamine. Well, I'm sorry. Your body gets used to a drug after a while. And sometimes with chronic pain or with rare diseases, you need to use a different tactic. My daughter has been through every damn medication on planet Earth. And when she was underage, she's now 18, but when she was under 18, they had to start using adult doses, which is not recommended, right? Adult doses of medications, because nothing was working. So it's like, yeah, sometimes you have to go outside of what's normal to help medically, because something is so medically rare. Her disease is medically rare. My daughter's disease has less than 177 people on planet Earth that have it. Like, it didn't even exist when she was born, and she started showing signs when she was just about 2 or 3 months old. So again, if they don't know something and they can't figure it out, and you're still telling them something's wrong, like Maya Kowalski's mom was, they said to Maya Kowalski's mom basically like, oh, it's Munchausen by proxy because we don't know what you're talking about. Like, we don't believe that. Well, hey, maybe if they took the time to listen to the doctor that called them and said, I've treated Maya Kowalski. This is exactly what she needs. They didn't. They brushed him off. They didn't listen to anything he had to say. Like, well, that's the thing. The court system did screw Justina Pelletier's family. So Patriotic says, I was in Boston when the Justina Pelletier case unfolded for about 70 seconds. Howie Carr of the family support didn't last long, and the court system screwed the family, and they did. Justina Pelletier's family should have won that case hands down. No ifs, ands, or buts. They medically kidnapped that girl, period. And, their whole theory of, well, these kids got better when they weren't with their parents, except they didn't get better. They might have had different symptoms because you were giving them different drugs, but they didn't get better. There was no better for them. They were still living in hell. because these hospitals were too big, too ego-driven to say, you know what? We might be wrong here. We might have made a mistake here. Government entities, hospitals, schools, they never want to admit wrongdoing ever. Ever. They will always place the blame somewhere else. And I've learned, over my 37 years of life that they don't ever want to take responsibility for the mistakes that they have made. And that's really sad, because then they just push it off to someone else, or they make you run around in circles to try to figure out what you can do. Oh, they blame it on the insurance company. Insurance company blames it on them. And then you're in this vicious circle of fighting these two people who are just blaming it on each other. That's utterly ridiculous. Do you know how many times I've had to fight with the insurance company? Probably a billion. Probably a billion and 12. I mean, it's utterly ridiculous. Maya Kowalski's insurance company was being billed for the exact same disease they tried to say she didn't have. How more corrupt does it get, dude? You're saying the mother has Munchausen's by proxy. You're saying she does not have said disease. And then you're charging the insurance company for the exact disease you're saying she doesn't have. Make that make sense. Make it make any damn sense at all. There's something else here I want to pull up real quick for this family. And it breaks my damn heart. I literally feel this family's pain. When you have a kid with a rare disease, dude, you know exactly what they went through, even when it came to just finding out what she had to begin with.
Bigger, better Black Friday deals are on at Rent-A-Center. Right now, save $16 per week on an LG 86-inch smart TV. Save $7 per week on a PlayStation 5. Or save $5 per week on this Ashley sofa and love seat. It's Black Friday at Rent-A-Center.
At 17, Maya Kowalski has had years to live with complex regional pain syndrome, explaining to a jury Monday how it feels.
How I describe it to people who don't have CRPS, it's like I was born with gasoline deep within my body, and some incident, whether it was that sprained ankle or the severe asthma attack, was like a match and acted as a catalyst that just set my body on fire, and I have to live with this burning pain.
A flare-up when she was around 10 years old brought her to Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital in St. Pete. She was on ketamine therapy at the time.
The ketamine definitely helped. It had helped me more than any of the previous therapies I've tried.
But hospital staff disagreed when Maya's mother, Beata, pushed for ketamine, got alarmed, and suspected child abuse. Maya stayed at the hospital under state custody for months, and she says she was in so much pain she couldn't walk. But she says some workers did not believe her.
For example, when I expressed to them a symptom or like my pain, they would say, "No, you're making it up," or "It's in your head."
She says they tried to see if she could get up and go to the bathroom, leaving her isolated in a room for 2 days.
They left me there for 48 hours under surveillance, which they did not tell me about. They had a commode in there and they just put it far enough away from the bed so I would have to physically stand up and use the bathroom. I called the nurses whenever I had to use the bathroom because obviously I'm not able to walk. And when they refused to help me go to the bathroom, I would defecate on myself.
She described some nurses as mean and unhelpful, and others as compassionate and willing to help. Her testimony was emotional at times as she expressed her frustration.
But again, CRPS is very different on different days, and it's very hard to believe, and I understand that, but that's just how CRPS is.
It's just sad. Like the fact that you could be a nurse, and I don't care if your boss told you to do it. I don't give a shit if your boss told you, don't help this kid up. We have her under surveillance. Want to see if she's faking it. There's that 1% chance the kid's not faking it. I'm not doing that. So you better find someone else to do it because I'm not doing it. Like, that's abuse. You want to say the mother has Munchausen's by proxy for pushing for, something that she already had. This treatment that she already had. But this isn't abuse by the hospital. Like you gotta love it when it's like, it's only abuse if you do it. It's not abuse if we do it because we're the ones accusing you. Like what? That makes no logical sense. And what really got me was the judge that wouldn't let Beata give Maya a hug. Like that right there killed me because I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Is the judge, they asked if they could get a hug. Even right there in the courtroom, Maya and Beata wanted, just a hug. Just can I hug my daughter? I haven't seen my daughter in 2 months. Can I hug my daughter? And the judge said, no, I don't think so. Beata wrote about that in one of her suicide notes. Like, you broke her spirit right then and there. You wouldn't let her give her daughter a hug. She wasn't all, they shut phone calls down when she asked how she wasn't allowed to ask her daughter how she was doing or what treatments they were giving her. Wasn't allowed. I'm sorry, what? Like, isn't that what we do as parents? Like, make sure our kids are okay. We're not even allowed to ask if they're okay. That's utterly absurd. That's absurd. Like, oh, it makes me mad too. It makes me extremely mad. Well, that's the thing, right? Nobody knows your body better than you. And nobody knows your kids better than what your kids are already telling you, right? So why does it make it okay for them to not listen to the things that you're saying about your body or their own? Like, that's absurd. Like, that's absolutely absurd. It doesn't make any damn sense. None at all. Like, I can't. I literally can't. Some of these people are like so smart. Let me just tell you. Like, oh man. I can't. But yeah, I mean, this one really struck a chord for me. They need to listen. They definitely need to listen. Like, but again, you have these doctors or nurses with these egos that are like, oh no, nope, we're not gonna listen because we don't think it's that. And if you know more than us and you didn't go to, medical school, then that makes us look bad. So instead of saying maybe we did something wrong or maybe we need to look into it, we're just going to say, nope, Munchausen's by proxy. Like, I'm sorry, but where's the picture of the family? I just need to pull this up because, like, this irks me to the core. Like, just, it irks me to the freaking core. The fact alone that all of these people were in cahoots to do this, and the comments they made after Maya Kowalski killed herself in their garage, mind you, in the damn garage of the house, is utterly absurd. This family, without Beata, obviously, has went through hell. Maya Kowalski's been through hell. The husband's been through hell, and he carries a lot of shame and guilt that he argued with Beata because Beata would not just let them win. She wasn't going to admit to something she didn't do. And she was not going to continue to allow them to keep bullying her. And her husband argued back with her. Just do what they say. Just, admit it, you're the issue. And then maybe they'll give us, Maya back. Like, and Beata was like, no, well, I'm not doing that. That's not happening. No, absolutely not. And I do not blame them. Like, utterly ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. It's just sad that we even have to, this is something that happens all over the country. And we're talking about like this case, like, and like we talked about, Justina Pelletier, like these aren't the only two cases. They're not. Like, they're not the only two cases by a long shot. It's sad. It's very, very sad. All right, let me get this off the screen real quick. I mean, I know most of you probably saw this, or some of you probably saw the trial, and it was very emotional, right? Like, very emotional. Like, Maya Kowalski herself having to testify, that would break your heart just watching that. Like, and anytime they talked about Beata, obviously, she just lost it. And I don't blame her. It's awful. It's awful to have to talk about your mom and knowing what your mom did to try to keep you. And there was a doctor that called Beata and said, listen, if they're not going to give her the treatments that she needs, right, what's going to happen is your daughter is going to die a slow and painful death. And that really scared Beata. Like, they're not listening to me. They're not giving her the proper treatments. And now this doctor who knows most about this disease of anyone is telling me my daughter's going to die a slow, painful death. Beata thought her only way out was to take her own life. And it's like, I always say it's a temporary, it's a permanent solution for a temporary problem. Yeah, the son. That's another thing, that the son found the mother. That was another just heartbreaking thing, is her son, Maya Kowalski's brother, found the mother and the father. And that's just terrible, like awful. He's going to remember that for the rest of his life. And that's not something you want to find. I sure as hell would not have wanted to find my dad. Everybody knows my dad committed suicide by hanging, and I would not have wanted to be the one to find him. That's for sure. I do not want to remember my parent that way. And, the case should scare every medical professional in the country, but unfortunately it doesn't. And they continue on doing this. Because again, we're talking about humans. These are humans with human traits. And, some of these people have egos. There's good doctors just like there's bad doctors. There's good nurses like there's bad nurses. Same thing with lawyers. And, there's good and bad of everyone and anyone, It was so sad. It is absolutely maddening. I would definitely agree with the fact that it's maddening. Ultimately maddening to have to even talk about the fact that this happened, and that this hospital allowed most of this to happen, and that they went along with it. The social worker that was supposed to be like watching Maya was very abusive. Also, she had already abuse allegations against her, and they continued to allow her to work for that company. I'm sorry. No, absolutely not. Like, you're working with children. And another kid had said that she held them down. Oh, shocker. She did it again. And that is on you guys. And then you guys want to appeal, like the hospital's now appealing or saying they're going to appeal. They haven't yet, but saying they're going to appeal. How dare you? How dare you try to put this family through more horror? You're in the wrong. And again, it's just about money. They just don't want to pay $261 million. Well, unfortunately, you put this family through hell. So now you're going to have to pay for it. And $261 million isn't bringing Beata Kowalski back to her family. Maya will never have her mom walk her down the aisle or see her grandchild. And I know what it was like to play a song in place of the father-daughter dance and not have your dad there, never mind your mom. Like, well, that's the thing. The ethics, we're talking about ethics boards. Ethics boards, not even just for the medical professionals. What about judges? They do nothing. Judges never get held accountable for anything. Ever. Especially in the state of Massachusetts. There's been a judge they've been trying to remove off the bench for years. Susan Jacobs. Guess what? There's only one brave person in our legislature. Representative Hadid. And I've worked with her on hearings for homelessness and stuff like that. And guess what? She's the only one who's brave enough to consistently keep filing in every 2 years to remove this judge off the bench. But all our other lawmakers are too chicken to vote it out of committee. So it doesn't happen. And that's the only way you can actually remove a judge off the bench in the state of Massachusetts, is that way. And they're not doing it. And with evidence. So if you have all this evidence that a judge is acting unethically and illegally, and no one else chooses to do anything, then the judge can it makes them emboldened to continue to do it. And worse than before. So now we have this judge who continues to stay on the bench doing all this shit. And no one does a goddamn thing about it, except Representative Patricia Hadid. That lady is amazing. And she is brave. And she at least sticks by what the hell she believes in. When someone came to her and said, here's all, and I've talked to her about this, here's all the evidence. Multiple people, she told me, have come to her. That's a problem. That's an issue. Why hasn't anything been done? Because our judges aren't held accountable, just like our medical professionals are not. You guys forget that I worked in a prison, right? When my almost 6-year-old was just a baby, I worked at Bridgewater all through my pregnancy as well. It's called state hospital, but it's a prison. And it's sad because I watched medical professionals not do their job. And in order to report them, you're the bad guy, right? You're the bad guy. But when yes, Mary, she is she sure is. But when you have to watch these medical professionals, they're supposed to do their job. They're supposed to go to the cell of the person, and they're supposed to, if they're on, suicide watch, you're supposed to go to the cell of that person, talk to them, do an assessment, and 9 out of 10 times in the dead of the night, the on-call doctors would not even come down and see these people or talk to these people at all. At all. Not even a little. And they would just write out like they're continuing to be on eyeball, which is somebody continuously watching them through the cell door. And that's sad. That is sad. Like, that's that shit. Like, that they don't even, not even doing their job. And then they're also billing because Mass Health, it's a weird thing with that prison where Mass Health, if they have Mass Health, they can be billed for services rendered in the prison. And so like meds that they give or like, you know, therapy sessions, like stuff like that, they can bill Mass Health for it because it's not run by the, it's run by the DOC, but at the same time, because they're a quote unquote hospital, even though it's a prison hospital, they're allowed to bill the person's insurance. That would be insurance fraud. If you're billing for things that you're not doing, that's insurance fraud. Well, Bridgewater Hospital doesn't care. They don't care. And the medical professionals that work there, especially the ones who were on call in the middle of the night, lazy. Even some of the ones during day didn't want to come down, didn't want to talk to the person, didn't ask the correct questions. They just be like, do you want to kill yourself still? No? Okay. They're off eyeball. That's not the way it works, dude. That is not the proper way to do it. You're billing for doing X, Y, and Z, and you're not doing X, Y, and Z. That's a problem, right? You're just being lazy. Why? Because you're still getting paid through the asshole for it. That's a problem. That's a very serious problem. There are plenty of things I saw at Bridgewater that I was ultimately disgusted with. And then I tried to fix myself. I mean, you can't always fix everything yourself. I'm not a doctor and I'm not a nurse. You know, I was essentially like a CO. So that's literally all I could do is write up a report it, and try to change it, you know, when I'm in the unit. So for instance, there's one guy that didn't let take a shower for like 2 days. And I'm like, hello, he has to be allowed outside of his. Well, the last time we let him out on the weekend when you weren't here, you know, we had to chase him down the hallway naked, all soaped up. Okay. Well, it doesn't matter. He's unmedicated and he's clearly, you know, gonzo. He still has to be allowed to take a shower. I come back from the weekend and there's still food all in his cell because he, you know, was unmedicated, right? His clothes are in the toilet. Like, the cell stinks to high heavens. Like, all of it. All of it. And it's been 2 days, 48 hours in that cell with all that disgustingness. And I'm like, are you guys for real? You guys didn't clean his cell out. You didn't let him out. Like, what's going on here? Like, so I literally like demanded that they move him into another cell. And, oh, we don't have a cleaning company right now. Well, I guess it looks like I'm cleaning it then, doesn't it? So I made them move him into an empty cell. I cleaned his cell out. Got him new clothes. I got him, you know, a thing of food. And it's like, it doesn't. Well, what if he throws it everywhere again? Well, then he does and you clean it. He's unmedicated. Like, you don't just leave him in it. Like, that's inhumane. Like, it's inhumane. He doesn't know what's up and down right now. He would have like minutes of clarity if you talk to him about things like anime. He loved anime, or things like old like 90s cartoons. He loved stuff like that. And all of a sudden you'd be talking to him and it'd be like talking to a normal person. And then all of a sudden out he would go again and it would be gone. And he'd just be, you know, talking nonsense about nothingness. But he would have those moments of, aha, if you talk to him about something that he really loved or liked. And it's sad. Like, you guys left him in that cell for 48 hours when I was off all weekend. You left him like that. What? Naruto, yeah. My kid loves anime. So believe me, I'm hip on the anime. But it's my point. Like, if you would talk to him about something he liked, all of a sudden he would like come back down to reality. But then once that conversation was over, he went, you know, off the rails again. Nonetheless, he was a person, a human. He's a human, right? Like, you can't treat people inhumanely, especially ones that don't know what's up or down, and leave him in the cell with food and his clothes in the toilet naked because you don't want to deal with it. That's your job. That is your job. Deal with it. That really, yeah, Naruto. My kid watches all of those, all of them, all the anime. She loves anime. I bought her books for, I can't even remember what the one was last year for Christmas that she wanted, but I had to buy her the books for it. And I had to get them online. Anime voice actor. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, I mean, it is sad. But to be fair, patriotic, I actually love the job there. The only reason I'm not currently there is because I couldn't afford the 30 grand a year in childcare for my little one. And she just started kindergarten this year. The only reason I'm not currently there. I mean, you actually feel like you're making a difference. You know, I had a ton of patients, or, you know, I call them patients, but criminals, patients, you know, whatever, that would draw like these really nice, some of them are very artistic. Like there was one guy that drew me like this really cool cross with like roses on it, just to say thank you, like for being like a humane person. Like, and you know, that some of them had like really good like artistic ability, and some they'd bring stuff like that to you if you didn't treat them like shit. They're still humans. Like we'd get some people that hadn't been medicated from Pembroke Hospital in months because they refused meds, and we'd have to get a court order to get them to take meds. But once they finally took meds, right? The correct meds, I should say, they would become normal again. And it's like, okay. But then we had inmates that were there for, you know, 5 years, 6 years, and they're still not quite right. But you have them on the exact same meds you had them on 5 years ago. Clearly they're not working. Time to change the medication. Except they wouldn't change the medication. They would just keep them on the same medication. Like, hello, maybe provide them a service and change the medication if it's not working. It's kind of common sense, no? I mean, you would think it would be common sense, but apparently to them it was not. Like, yeah, see, that's wrong. And also remember, people, like, this is a terrible story, Mary. That's awful. Mary says that she suffered a miscarriage, and one of the nurses wouldn't answer the nurse call button, and she had to get up herself. And another nurse came to her and she told that nurse what was going on, and the other nurse was told to leave. That's awful. Like that should never happen. That should never, ever happen. But again, there are bad nurses, just like there are good ones, you know? Yeah, see, your mom was an occupational therapist at the Worcester State Hospital, and she loved it. She had a few very scary moments, but she was like you, willing to help them. Well, that's the thing, right? Like we had plenty of scary moments. Like a code black is a staff assault. You would hear those go off on our walkie-talkies all the time. Code black, and all the different units. And you'd have to have any available people run to that unit to help. Obviously, you couldn't like all run out of one unit because you got to stay with your inmates, but any available people would have to go. And yeah, there were plenty of times, but I'll tell you, there's a couple stories I have where before I could even get security there to help, other inmates came to help. Like, what's that tell you? You have other inmates standing in between you and the person who's trying to assault you, saying, no, you're going to leave her alone, before I could even get security there fast enough. Like, that means that they have some sort of respect for you because you're not treating them like utter shit. Like, hello, I've been sober 15 years. I've been on the other side of the fence. I know what it's like. These people aren't all there. First of all, there are innocent people in jail, people. Hark. There are innocent people sitting in jails. Oh my God, it's a miracle. There are plenty of people who don't belong in a prison. And so you should be treating everybody with dignity and respect, no matter what you think they did or didn't do. I preferred not to read their files. You know, I when I first started working there, I didn't learn, and I read them, some of them. And I was in the intake unit, B unit. And, you know, it sucks because knowing what they did, you kind of look at them differently. So I stopped reading their files on what they did. I don't want to know what they did. Like, I only need to know, you know, what their likes, dislikes, what sets them off, what doesn't set them off, what calms them down. Like, I did not need to know anymore what they did or what they didn't do or what they were accused of. Because at the same time, accused and guilty are two different things, as we know. Like, you can be accused of a lot. Doesn't mean you're guilty of it. If you look at someone's record and everything on it says dismissed, guess what? They were found to not be guilty because it was dismissed. Like, if Karen ever beats these charges, it'll say either if they decide to dismiss it because they have nothing to go on, then it'll say dismissed. If not, it'll say that she was found not guilty. Like, it will say on the record, dismissed, not guilty, guilty. Like that's it. It's that simple. Like, so like, I hate when people look at people's records and I'm like, well, they have all these things on their record. Did it say guilty? Did it say guilty? Oh, it didn't. Oh, that means they were found not guilty of it. Jeez Louise. That means the state had nothing and they had to dismiss it because there was nothing there. Like, and you would imagine how many people have actually been charged with something they didn't do. Plenty, especially out of the Norfolk County DA's office. That's another thing. A lot of people, if you go into confessions, they've done an actual like study on confessions and how often false confessions and how often false witness statements are. Like, witnesses will say they saw X, Y, and Z. But if a police officer says, "Did you see a man in a blue shirt?" Now, all of a sudden, the witness remembers a man in a blue shirt, even though she never saw a man in a blue shirt. And that happens fairly often. And they've done many studies on it. Many. I mean, working in the legal system has definitely given me a different, a different outlook, a different way of looking at things, a different way of seeing things, and my own experiences in life. Being an addict, that's a different experience. But nobody wakes up one day and goes, "Hey, I would like to be an addict, please. I'll take addict for 500, Alex, please, me." No, nobody does that. I had dreams and goals and ambitions, and I knew since I was 12 years old and they put me on the stand in court that I wanted to be an attorney. I knew that. And I studied the hell out of it, and I still do. And that is and was my dream. I never wanted to be an addict. I also never wanted to be abused as a kid or a young adult. Nobody asks for that. Those are traumas. Those are things people don't ask for, but you have to ask yourself, if you have a family member or a friend or a sibling or a loved one who's an addict, like, I'd bet money something really bad happened to them. And some of those people take it to their grave. Some of them take it to their grave. Oh, yeah. Absolutely, Pamela. Absolutely. She said, as a clinician, I need to bill by the minute. If you appointment at 9, but you show up at 9:06, I'm only being paid from 9:06 on. Yeah, well, at Bridgewater, they don't seem to care about that. They'll just bill. Outright bill. And nobody says a damn word, right? Nobody says a damn word. They're not gonna. Who's gonna question the doctors at Bridgewater? No one. No one's going to. It's half the problem. It's literally half the problem, unfortunately. I mean, I know people, my friend does not get paid good money to work in healthcare. She does it because that's something that she studied, and it's something that she likes, and it helps people, and she loves it. But she's not going to bill for something she didn't do. Like, that's unethical, right? But they don't care. It's very unethical. I have another story, and this one's really sad too. So sad. Some of these stories are just so freaking sad. Also, I just want to mention this real quick because this is just a quick thing. Where'd it go? Where'd you go? Hold on. Here we go. Ship this. This is Austin Goldsmith. Oh. Yep. So even though you saw, right. It happens. It really happens. It really, really does. This is Austin Goldsmith. Unfortunately, he is currently missing. So the University of Arkansas Police Department is searching for a missing 29-year-old man. Austin Goldsmith was last seen leaving the Arkansas Union on the University of Arkansas campus Wednesday, November 8th. Police asked if you have any information, contact the department 479-575-2222. So if anybody has any friends or family in Arkansas, I actually do know someone in Arkansas, please get the word out. This was only put out 5 hours ago. This young man is missing. And I know, women there's a lot of coverage of missing women, but I feel like not a lot of coverage of the missing males that go missing. And that's not okay either. Just like my friend Miguel's case, he didn't get a ton of coverage, and he should have. But because he was a Hispanic male who had a drug problem, they just cast him aside like he didn't matter. And he does matter, Yeah, see, that's the thing. Witnesses aren't always reliable. And do you know how many actually false witness statements have put somebody in jail for a very, very long time? A very, very long time. Have kids, they said. Exactly. Have kids, they said. They told me it was a good idea, they said. But yes, so this young man, he is missing. And so if anybody knows anybody in Arkansas, please send that to them. They're looking for him. He's been missing since the 8th. But let me just get rid of this right here. And this right here. Have kids, they said. It's a good idea, they said. It's a good idea, they say. I do that. To be fair, and I'm not even dyslexic, but to be fair, I do that too. I'm like, okay, left. I do that too. I do it too. You're not the only one, and I'm about to be 37 this month, so believe me, you are not alone, ma'am. You're not alone. I do the same thing, and I'm not even dyslexic or anything. Have 3 kids, they said. Have 3 daughters, they said. They won't all drive you nuts, they said. Yes, they will. They lied. All right, let's see. Yeah, it'll be rewarding, they said. Exactly. All right. So now I know you guys have heard of this story because it's, an ongoing thing. But this guy here, where's the picture of the guy? It's here somewhere. Let me find it. These are actually the missing people. So Mei Haskell, and then her parents, both these 2 people here next to her, are currently missing. Now, there was blood found in her house after they found a missing torso. A torso in a dumpster. They found a torso in a dumpster, and then they tracked the bag back to the house of the Haskells, and then, now they know all 3 people are missing. There was blood found inside the home, and he is actually a son. The guy who's accused, the husband, is the guy. He's of an executive of a Hollywood executive, who represented people like Whoopi Goldberg, and so his father, Samuel Haskell, is the guy that's accused, and they actually have him under arrest right now. Yeah, mama is usually first. Actually, proud enough to say all my kids said mama first. All 3 of my girls said mama first. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Bob. That's terrible. Well, lots and lots of prayers for your surgeries, Bob. We want to see you well and able to join us. Yep, usually mama is first. Yeah, it is usually first. Yeah, so rewarding. But yes, usually mama is first. I was like, all 3 of my daughters did say mama first. But to be fair, they say the duh sound is actually easier for them. I guess. I don't know. My kids apparently took the hard way out. That's not a shocker, though. That's not a shocker. They are my kids. So they're stubborn like me. So yeah, my girls definitely took the hard way out by using mama first. Yeah, that's what they say. That it's I'm sorry. If to be fair, my youngest and my oldest are definitely daddy's girls. My middle is in her I hate everyone, don't touch me phase. Yeah, she's in the teenager of ugh, everyone sucks phase. But my oldest and my youngest, they are daddy's girls. You can ask daddy. They are daddy's girls. Yeah, so see, Katie knows. Katie can make anybody feel better because Katie's awesome. I know you're just messing, but yes, absolutely. They say dada is easier, but you never know. Kids like to take the hard way out of everything. All right, so yeah, this woman, she was 37 or is 37. Hopefully they find her and it's not her torso they found. And her parents, both of them, are missing. It's really sad, but they say that the police have arrested a Los Angeles man in connection with the discovery of the torso of a dismembered female body and the disappearance of his wife and her live-in parents. Los Angeles Police Department confirmed Saturday the arrest of 35-year-old Samuel Haskell. He's been jailed on suspicion of murder while police attempt to identify the torso, which was found within a bag in a dumpster on Wednesday. The arrest was supported by evidence from a search of Haskell's home in the Tarzana area where he lived with his wife, in-laws, and his 3 children. Haskell's 37-year-old wife, Mei Haskell, has gone missing along with her parents. The children have been located and are being cared for by relatives, police said. Police did not know if Haskell had an attorney who could speak on his behalf, and there were no court files immediately available online to indicate if he had hired an attorney or assigned a public defender. Family members could not immediately be reached. He's being held with a $2 million bail with a court appearance scheduled for Monday, so tomorrow. Multiple media outlets have identified Haskell as the son and namesake of a former executive at a prominent Hollywood talent agency. That's awful. The parents' names, oh God, I'm going to butcher these. I'm so sorry. Gaoshan Lee, Yan Yanzing Wang. Oh my God, I don't want to butcher these people's names. I don't want to. That's okay. You can totally cringy mom brag in here. That's allowed. We will allow it. His mother in Chinese, and that's the paternal name for grandfather. Oh, okay. Yeah. It is very cute. Fun, cute story that has nothing to do with anything. I couldn't say Grampy when I was little. So my grandfather was Bambi. And until the day he died, he was Bambi. I was 18 when he died, and he was Bambi. He died of cancer. But everyone then called, I was his first grandchild, so Bambi, and it stuck because I couldn't say Grampy when I was little. I could just do the buh. So it was Bambi. Fun story that has nothing to do with anything. Also, if you guys want to support me and my channel, all the information is at the bottom of the screen. Venmo, Cash App. That's the way we're able to do these streams and keep doing these streams, is with your help, because I spend a lot of time. Also, there is new merch in the store today. The Silver Fox merch is in there. Compliments of Kyle's Funny. And you take a multivitamin, you look like shit. Also, compliments of Kyle's Funnies. So those are in the store. Sussex father was the CEO of Miss America pageant. Yeah, I heard something about that. Like, it was like, she was like Miss Mississippi or something like that, who was ousted after his creepy emails about pageant contestants and abuse came to light. So it looks like the gene pool was defective. That very well can be. You know, I also sometimes like to go into the, like, dive deep into, like, the psyche of, like, serial killers. Like, what makes a serial killer so crazy? Like, what makes them not have empathy or not have sympathy or not care about other people? Like, what is it? Defective genes? Were they born that way? Or is it things that happened to them, or nature versus nurture? Like, what exactly was it that made these people, like Jeffrey Dahmer or the killer clone, John Wayne Gacy, lose their effing minds and just be murderously crazy people? Like the Green River Killer, like any of those people. Were they just born that way? Like, I often wonder, and I've watched plenty of documentaries. I know you guys probably have too, as true crime, hello. But oftentimes have thought to myself, like, what makes them that crazy? Like, what makes them nuts? Like there has to be something that snaps like a fire stick in their head. I mean, Jeffrey Dahmer is a good one to be like, what? Nature and nurture. That they actually did a study on whether it was nature versus nurture or nature and nurture. And it was an interesting study, the one I read. And it's, I mean, you got to wonder, though. You have to wonder what makes these people snap like this. Like, what would make you disappear and kill your wife and possibly their parents? Like, predisposition. Yeah, I've thought about predisposition. I have. I really, really have. It makes no sense. Like, why would you want to go and murder someone? Like, and some of the reasons that you hear about afterward, like when they do confessions in jail or whatever, like whether they're, like, you know, taped or not, you're like, that can't be why. Like, you murdered someone because you were upset. Like, what? I can't even kill. Like, I find when we lived in Canton years ago, the house that we rented, the landlord, like, didn't, like, there must have been a hole, like, in the roof and in the basement somewhere. We couldn't find it, but mice, we had a cat, and mice kept coming in. So every night I would hear my cat just like, and it would literally be chasing and playing with mice. And I'm like, what the hell, dude? Right. And I'm like, why in the hell do, like, first of all, where are they coming from? Right. Like, why are they coming in my house? And see, there was one morning I woke up and I came out and it was like probably 5 a.m, and the cat's going like this, looking up, and I look up and there's a mouse running on the bar of my like shower thing, running back and forth. I don't even know how it got up there. But the point is, you have to wonder, right? Like, did these people snap because like a mouse was in their house? Like then they blame their wife for the mouse getting in? Like what the hell is wrong with people? John Wayne Gacy like just murdered and stuffed them in the basement. Like, listening to those detectives tell you how they found those bodies is insane. Or the lady. Oh, does anybody remember that landlady's name? The landlady who was like killing her tenants and like stealing their social security checks and buried them in the yard. Like, I can't remember her name, dude, but she was one of the, oh man, I gotta remember her name now. Now that's gonna irk me. What is her name? It was like disabled, like this was in California, I think. Tenants. And the house still stands, which is just weird. Really weird. Oh, that was it. Dorethea Puente. That's her. This is her. She was a convicted serial killer. And I don't know if any of you guys know that story. But this lady was cuckoo bananas. Like, I'm talking gonzo. Absolutely freaking insane. Like, let's bring it up. They are wired wrong. That's true. Killed his elderly mother, put her in a freezer, and then impersonated her online so nobody would suspect the check. Yeah, for money. For money. For money. Like, but consistent among majority. That's interesting. Yeah, wired wrong. That's what I'm always like. Are they just wired fucked up? Like, this lady. Okay, now look at this. Now, you never think. Now, clearly, they knew someone helped her. Okay? She's just a little old lady. Just a little old lady. Dorethea Puente. She's obviously probably not alive still, but nonetheless, she's a little old lady, man. Like, just a little tiny old freaking lady. And it was, yeah, so she must have died in 2011, I think. But it'll tell you, it was a convicted serial killer in the 1980s. She ran a boarding house in Sacramento, California, and murdered various elderly and mentally disabled boarders before cashing their social security checks. Puente's total count reached 9 murders. She was convicted of 3, and the jury hung up on the other 6. Newspaper dubbed Puente the death house lady. Like, that's just terrible. Yeah, so she died at age 82 in Chowchilla, California, in the Central California Women's Facility. Life imprisonment without parole. She got 9 victims. She was convicted of 3. She was apprehended November 11th, actually, 1988. Apparently her parents were both like alcoholics, and her father threatened to kill himself in front of the kids a lot. He died of like tuberculosis in like 1937. Her mother worked as a sex worker, lost custody of the kids in 1938, and died in a motorcycle accident by the end of the year. And her siblings were sent to like an orphanage where she was abused. It's like a lot of it, a lot of shit happened to her in her life. But if shit just happened to people and then you all just decided to be serial killers, like, she had a bunch of people buried. And obviously they know, like, so I guess she used to put on like heavier makeup and make herself look a lot older than she was, even at that time, to make herself look like more old lady-ish so that she wasn't like deemed a suspect. Like, and it kind of worked for a long while. Like, it worked, thinking like, oh, this little old lady couldn't have possibly, carried these bodies out here, buried them. Like, and I forget how they even found this out. Doctors diagnosed her as a pathological liar with an unstable personality. But again, that was 1961. So I'm sure if they had done some shit way later, like following a divorce. Yeah, so she focused on running a boarding house located near 15th and F Streets in Sacramento. She established herself as a genuine resource to the community to aid alcoholics, homeless people, and mentally ill people by holding Alcoholics Anonymous meetings and assisting individuals to sign up and receive Social Security. She changed her public image to that of a respectable older matron by putting on vintage clothing, wearing large granny glasses, and letting her hair turn gray. She also established herself as a respected member in Sacramento's Hispanic community, funding charity scholarships and radio programs. She eventually met and married Pedro Montalvo, although Montalvo abruptly left the relationship a week after their marriage. So in 78, she was convicted of illegally cashing 34 state and federal checks that belonged to her tenants, and she was given 5 years probation. That's another thing. So they already knew that she had fraud against like tenants and stuff, and they still allowed her to continue long after this, bringing people to her home. Like, what is wrong with you people? You can't continue to allow her to do that. In 1982, she was convicted of 3 grand theft charges. She was sentenced to 5 years in prison and paroled in 86. Federal parole sentence was extended another 2 years until 1990. Yeah, so she started corresponding with Everson Theodore Gilmith, a 77-year-old retiree from Oregon. And beginning in September of 1985, Gilmith came to Sacramento with his truck and trailer and arrived at Puente's boarding house on September 9th, 1985. After serving only half of her sentence, she was released, and she was picked up by Gilmith and Ricardo Ordocia, I don't know, a close friend who lived with his family in the downstairs flat of 1426 F Street. In October 85, Puente wrote to Gilmith's sister informing her that she and Gilmith were to be married on November 2nd. A short time later, Puente hired a handyman, Ismael Carrasco Flores, for remodeling and asked him to build a 6-foot by 30-inch by 30-inch storage box. She agreed to give him the guy's truck and $800 as payment. The day after he completed the box, he returned to find the box nailed shut. She asked him to help her take the box, which now weighed approximately 300 pounds, to a storage location, but ended up dumping the box near a river about an hour from Sacramento. On December 28th, 1998, it was determined that Gilmith was the previously unidentified body discovery by a fisherman alongside the Sacramento River on January 1st. His body was wrapped in plastic bags and covered with a bed sheet held in place by electrical tape. Mothballs and blue toilet deodorizer were also found inside the box. It was later discovered that Gilmith's death, Puente mailed fake letters and cards to his sister in an attempt to make her believe he was still alive. Puente was also found to have forged his signature on his truck certificate title and continued cashing his checks until 86. Like, come on, dude. This lady literally just kept cashing people's checks. Toxicology report on this lady. She partially dismembered this lady. Discovered in a shallow hole in Puente's front yard. Her head, hands, and lower legs were never found. That's sad. Toxicology reports revealed the presence of doxylamine, an over-the-counter antihistamine, as well as asperidol and fluorazepam, both of which previously prescribed to her. I mean, that's just so. That's the thing. So I think there was like an odor too that they found like in her house, obviously from like under the floorboards. Nature and nurture, yeah, but at the same time, I mean, I have CPTSD from the amount of trauma like in my life, and like, how do you go from being a normal person, or maybe they were never normal, I don't even know, to being like a semi-normal person in some of your life, to just snapping and killing 9 people. 9 people. This lady killed 9 people and buried most of them in her yard. Like that's insane. Yeah, well, I'm sure. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Those are the things you have to disclose. And thankfully, I know tenants' rights. So all of my neighbors know their rights, thankfully, because of that. Because I know them. But, I mean, this lady, she killed 9 damn people and got away with it for a very, very long time. And the thing is there were plenty of red flags about her already doing this, scam of Social Security checks to these people. And they still ignored it, basically. Now, I want to see where they found. Oh, here it goes. November 7th, police spoke with John Sharp, a former resident, about the disappearance of Montoya. Oh, that's what it was. This guy is the one that broke the camel's back. Initially, Sharp told police he had seen Montoya 2 days earlier, but then slipped a note to the officer that said, "She's making me lie." He later met with an officer to tell his story. On November 11th, a detective returned to Puente's residence and, with her permission, that's right, she gave permission, began digging in areas that appeared to be recently disturbed. 30 minutes later, he discovered the first body. Just hours after her body was discovered in her backyard, she slipped away from police on November 13th, 1988. All points bulletin was issued for her. On November 16th, Charles Wilgus, along with Gene Silver of CBS, alerted police to Puente's whereabouts at a motel in Los Angeles. Wilgus met Puente, who was using the alias Donna Johansson, the day before at a nearby bar. He later recalled seeing her on a CBS morning newscast and reached out to Gene Silver, who met with Wilgus at his apartment. The two contacted local law enforcement, and Puente was arrested the same day. Like, this lady, like, first of all, they let her walk right out of her house. That's number one. Like, you know, she's actually on camera at the front of her house that day. They have like footage of her in the front of the house, and literally she just leaves. She just leaves. And they had already found the first body. So you have a body in her backyard. And she's, oh, I don't know how that could, one of my tenants, you know, the whole old lady scheme. And they let her walk right out. Like, you guys didn't detain her. Like, I get that it was the 80s, but holy shit, you didn't detain her. You didn't stop her. Like, you just let her Puentes just walked away. Like, and like, the story doesn't end there with this lady. That's a sad part. Like, this lady was crazy. 3,100 exhibits had been submitted in the trial, and over 22,000 pages of transcript were recorded. The jury deliberated for 11 days. 11. August 2nd, 1993, the jury told Judge Michael Verga that they were deadlocked on all 9 counts of murder and asked for further instruction. The next day, Verga ordered the jury to resume their efforts to break the deadlock. On August 26th, 1993, so that's 24 days later, Puente was convicted on 3 counts of murder. Benjamin Fink, Leona Carpenter, and Dorothy Miller. The jury, after deliberating for 35 days, remained deadlocked on 6 cases: Ruth Monroe, Everson Theodore Gilmith, Betty Mae Palmer, James Gallup, and Vera Faye Martin, and Alvarado Gonzalez Montoya, which I feel like Montoya should have been definitely they should have found her guilty, but I mean, it didn't matter. She got life anyway. During the penalty phase of the trial, jurors found themselves deadlocked again. On October 13th, 93, Puente was spared the death penalty. On December 10th, 93, she was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. And that's where she stayed until she died. But on August 28th, 1997, an appeal court in San Jose affirmed Puente's murder convictions, but ordered an examination of juror misconduct allegations. After a 3-day hearing on September 25th, 1998, Judge William Curtis rejected each allegation of jury misconduct in Puente's trial. Like, this lady tried till the end of time to, like, you know, get out. Like, Puente died in prison at Chachilla on March 27th, 2011 from natural causes, and she was 82. Oh, I didn't know this. In 2015, the Ghost Adventures crew investigated the house due to reports of hauntings by the victims and Puente herself. I'd have to check that out. I actually didn't know that they did that. In April 2020, the house and current owners were showcased in the Quidby series Murder House Flip. Okay. In June 2020, the house was featured in a 10-minute documentary with 60 seconds docs about the purchase and renovation of the house by the current owners. Interesting. 1998, Puente began corresponding with Shane Bugbee. The result was Cooking with a Serial Killer. Oh, I remember that. Which included a lengthy interview, almost 50 recipes, and various pieces of prison art by her. I can't. The boarding house at 1426 F Street in Sacramento was included in the 2013 home tour held by the Sacramento Old City Association. It was then the subject of the 2015 documentary short, The House is Innocent, and was again open to tours for one day in conjunction with the local film festival showing of the film. She's been featured on numerous true crime television shows, including Crime Stories, Deadly Women, A Stranger in My Home, World's Most Evil Killers, and Worst Roommate Ever. I'd definitely say she was, I think, Eileen Wuornos was the only one that was killed, that was, executed, as far as I know, but she didn't get the death penalty. She got life in prison, Dorethea Puente, but that's one that I don't know if a ton of people know about. I mean, it's one that I've known about for a really long time, but I mean, she's a serial killer, and there are not that many serial killers that are women. There's, they're mostly men. So it's an interesting case, and it was in the 80s. Obviously it wasn't now, but usually it's men, right? Usually it's not women that you see. Eileen Wuornos was one of the ones that, like, if most people know about that one, is it's prevalent because she was a woman. But Dorethea Puentes, I don't think it's like a hugely known case. Like, I know some people know about it, but again, because it happened in the 80s, it's probably not as well known as the Wuornos case. And the Wuornos case, like, there's actually recordings and stuff of Eileen Wuornos, and you can, like, see the crazy, like, you can legit watch and see the crazy on the screen. Like, there's quite a few documentaries with her recordings and whatnot in them. Yeah. Yep. She was able to. Yep. I mean, it's sad, right? But she was able to keep doing this because, like I said, she dressed as if she was an older woman. She let her hair go gray. She wore these big Coke bottle glasses and, vintage clothes to make her look like she was older than she was on purpose, to give the effect of, like, I am a not so scary person who's not going to hurt you. I forget the name of the documentary. That's a really good one about her. You guys are going to have to look it up, but it's a good one. Yeah, I don't either. I wouldn't either. There's one in the French Quarter, what was her name? Marie. Oh my God, that lady that, like, killed her slaves and tortured them upstairs in, like, the attic. And that house had tours for, like, ever. It was like a torture chamber up there. Like, she had an entire torture chamber up there. And yeah, that was, a very, very long time ago. But they even did, what was it? What's this? You guys know what damn TV show I'm talking about that did sort of a, thing on it. Oh God, what is the name of it? One of their seasons was sort of about what she did, right? And she was, like, brought back to life in some way, whatever. But that was an insane one too. There was, like, voodoo involved, they thought, and, like, I forget her name. One of you guys has to know it. French Quarter. Let me see. I mean, that one was horrific. Like, Delphine Lalaurie, that's it. Delphine Lalaurie. Yep. She was insane. Absolutely freaking insane. Like, but this house is in the French Quarter, and it burned. They redid it, but it burned when people found out, like, what she did. They came in, they burned her house, like, they looted it and all that shit. But she was found to have literally tortured and cut off limbs. Like, she did like, she was using, like, their blood as a, like, beauty, regimen. Like, 1849 she died. So it was 1787 to 1849. Madame Lalaurie. Yeah. New Orleans socialite and serial killer who tortured and murdered slaves in her house. Yep. Born during the Spanish colonial period, she married 3 times in Louisiana and was twice widowed. Yeah. Wonder why. They discovered bound slaves in her attic who showed evidence of cruel, violent abuse over a long period. Her house was subsequently sacked, and an outraged mob of New Orleans citizens. She escaped to France with her family. The mansion, traditionally held to be Lalaurie's, is a landmark in the French Quarter, in part because of its history and for its architectural significance. However, their house was burned by the mob, and the Lalaurie mansion at 1140 Royal Street was in fact rebuilt after her departure from New Orleans. I mean, it's just weird because they also say, like, the way some of her husbands died was a little strange, and they never really got to the bottom of that. But I mean, it says accounts of Delphine Lalaurie's treatment of her slaves between 1831 and 1834 vary. Harriet Martineau, writing in 1838 and recounting tales told to her by New Orleans residents during her 1836 visit, claimed that slaves of Lalaurie were observed to be singularly haggard and wretched. However, in public appearances, Lalaurie was seen to be generally polite to Black people and solicitous of the health of those enslaved. Deaths of 12 slaves at the Royal Street Mansion. Although the causes of death are not mentioned, an infectious disease could have easily been the cause. Yeah, right. These 12 deaths include Bon, a cook and laundress, and her 4 children. Juliet died 13, Florence, age 10, Jules, age 6, and Leontine, age 4, had previously been enslaved by a refugee from Saint Domingue and was described in her sale as a chronic runaway with an influx of white and free sanctuary and refugees of color and those who they enslaved. She freed 2 slaves, Jean Louise in 1819 and De Vince in 1832. Public rumors about her mistreatment of slaves on her property were sufficiently widespread that a local lawyer was dispatched to the home to remind Lalaurie of the laws of the upkeep of slaves. During the visit, the lawyer found no evidence of wrongdoing or mistreatment of slaves. One of the neighbors saw an 8-year-old slave girl fall to her death from the roof of the mansion while trying to avoid punishment from a whip-wielding Lalaurie. And the body was buried on the mansion grounds. And this poor girl, Jean D. Levine, in her 1945 account, gave the child's ages 12 years and gave her a name, Leah or Leah. Later, writers elaborated on the case, saying Leah had been brushing Delphine's hair when she hit a snag, causing Lalaurie to grab a whip and chase her, which is just sad. The fire broke out, and that's how they found them. In the kitchen, when the police and fire marshals got there, they found the cook, a 70-year-old woman, chained to the stove by her ankle. She later said she had set the fire as a suicide attempt because she feared being punished. So that was like, I think later on they found out like that was her way of like trying to alert like the authorities, like, hey, some shit's going on here. You might want to help out, right? And they didn't. Like, unfortunately, they did not. Like, and they left these slaves to be tortured and, you know, dismembered and everything else. Like, I mean, I don't know if they have pictures. Where is it? 2 of the slaves that they had saved died after their rescue. And that digging in the yard, bodies have been disinterred and the condemned have been uncovered. Others, particularly that of a child, were found. That's just sad. Like, they found, you know, bodies. So when everyone knew they had found, you know, some of them, they found one wearing an iron collar. And there was another lady who had a really big, deep wound on her head, was too weak to walk. And when they questioned her husband about the enslaved on the property, he was told in an insolent manner that some people had better stay at home rather than come to others' houses to dictate laws and meddle with other people's business. I can't. Story circulated in 1836 added the slaves were emaciated, showing signs of being flayed with a whip, were bound in restrictive postures, wore spiked iron collars, which kept their heads in static positions, which means they couldn't move it up or down at all. Like, there was another one that was in prison there for like months. One was suspended by the neck with their limbs stretched and torn from one extremity to the other. You know, the people responding to the fire attempted to enter where the slaves were to make sure everyone was evacuated. And the Lalauries refused to give the keys to it. So they broke the door down and found 7 slaves mutilated up there. And so once people found out, it says when the discovery of the abused slaves became widely known, a mob of local citizens attacked the Lalaurie residence and demolished and destroyed everything upon which they could lay their hands. A sheriff and his officers were called upon to disperse the crowd. By the time the mob left, the property had sustained major damage with scarcely anything remaining but the walls. The slaves were taken to a local jail where they were available for public viewing. I mean, that's terrible. People had attended to view the slaves to convince themselves of their sufferings. Several weeks after the evacuation, claimed 2 of the slaves had died. I mean, she fled New Orleans during the mob violence and followed the fire, taking a coach to the waterfront and traveling by schooner to Mobile, Alabama, and then to Paris. I think she died in Paris, living in exile in Paris with her mother and 2 sisters. Serious about returning to New Orleans. Nope. He believed that his mother had never had any idea about the reason for her departure from New Orleans. Bad mood, her determination to return to New Orleans, the disapproval of her children and other relatives had apparently been enough for her to cancel her plan. So it says the circumstances of her death are unclear. 1888, George Washington Cable recounted a popular but unsubstantiated story that Lalaurie had died in France in a boar hunting accident. In the late 1930s, Eugene Bex, who served as sexton to the St. Louis Cemetery No. 1 until 1924 discovered an old cracked copper plate in alley 4 of the cemetery. The inscription on the plate read, Madame Lalaurie, nee Marie Delphine McCarthy. And then it was, the age and dates. English translation of the inscription reads, Madame Lalaurie, born Marie Delphine McCarthy, died in Paris, December 7th, 1842, at the age of 60, whatever. According to the French archives of Paris, however, Lalaurie died on December 7th, 1949, at the age of 62. I mean, lady was nuts. Bottom line. Lady was insane. We're talking about female serial killers. She was, technically a female serial killer back in the 1800s. Some of these people, again, you have to wonder, what fucking snapped in their brains so badly that they decided it was a great idea to just start murdering and mutilating people. I'm sorry, what now? I would not want to live in 34 Fairview after John died. But again, you have to remember the homeowners there actually didn't know what happened. They actually had no idea. They had no idea somebody had died on that lawn. They were not happy to know that someone died in that lawn when they were sold the house, and they were not told. I think there's a thing of disclosure where you're supposed to tell them if they ask in mass in the house, but he was outside the house. So I think they, of course, didn't tell the person, which I would want to know, right? If I'm going to buy a house, I would like to know if someone died inside or outside this house. Please. I do not want to be in a house where people died and I don't know anything about it. Not cool. But hey, you never know. I'm sure there's houses that you guys have lived in and not known that someone died there. Some people just die of old age in their homes. Whoever bought my grandparents' home, my grandfather died inside that home. He didn't want to be in the hospital. He was dying of cancer. He wanted to be at home when he died, and that's exactly where he died, in the house. It wasn't anything horrific. He died, of cancer, but I mean, cancer's horrific, but you know what I mean? He wasn't murdered, but he still died in the home. People should know that, right? People, especially people who believe in spirit. What if he's just wandering around the house, tethered to that house? I'd want to know if someone died in the apartment I rented or the house I lived in. I definitely want to know. I don't know if you guys would want to know, but I'd want to know. I'd like to hear about it. Would you want to know or no? Is that something you'd want to know? Or would you just rather not know? Because I mean, I want to know. I would definitely want to know. Somebody would have to tell me. But again, I guess I'm just somebody who needs to know stuff like that. It is what it is. What happened here? Hold on. Oh, people are so cute these days. So cute. I mean, I really also hope that they find this poor woman. I think there's a little, I think there was a video for this real quick for the lady. Let me see who's missing and her parents. Is this it? Mexican's friend. Let's see. I thought there was a little video about it. Is this it right here? Maybe. I think so. Let's check. There was a video at some point somewhere here. Or maybe that was down further. I don't know. Huh. That's nice. You have crazy. Again, people just snapping. You need to snap and kill people. I mean, that's insane to me. Absolutely insane to me. That these people just... That can't be it. Let's try this one. This to be... Where's the... Okay, so you hit play and nothing happens. Cool. Just the picture. We got the picture. We don't want the picture. We want the video. Don't toy with me, people. Like, come on. Let's see. Is this a video? Okay.
Of his wife and her parents. That investigation began earlier this week after the gruesome discovery of a torso found in a dumpster.
Police believe it is the remains of the wife of Samuel Haskell IV, the prime suspect in the case. KTLA's Chris Wolf joins us live near Haskell's home, which investigators say revealed evidence of dismemberment. Chris.
Yes, that's right, Cher and Micah. And the next door neighbor tells me that her good friend, Mei Haskell, who is missing and feared dead, was an amazing mother known for throwing elaborate parties and birthday parties for her 3 little boys, at one time bringing live ponies to the home for the celebration. But now there's little to celebrate.
Like my resume says, unhappy, bitter, resentful. Shouts out to the waiter at the restaurant above Nordstrom's for just like completely burning out of my filet. Like, what kind of a monster are you, homie?
35-year-old Samuel Haskell IV is seen in social media postings where he rambles about everything from burnt steak to feeling bitter and resentful.
Shouts out to my big homie for like buying me Camel Lights throughout middle school and high school. I now have lemonade colored teeth.
The son of a former high-powered Hollywood talent agent whose clients included the likes of Dolly Parton, George Clooney, and Whoopi Goldberg is now at the center of a bizarre and growing murder mystery. Haskell lived in this 6-bedroom home in Tarzana with his wife, May, in-laws, and 3 sons until 37-year-old May and her parents disappeared. The next-door neighbor tells us she last saw May about 1 week earlier in the morning, driving her kids to school. Days later, a homeless man rummaging through a dumpster a few miles from the Haskell home found a female torso stuffed into a duffel bag. Investigators believe the body part belongs to Mei Haskell and say surveillance footage from the dumpster location led them to her husband.
Now I'm consistently never going to stop drinking.
Samuel Haskell IV has been arrested on suspicion of murder, and the hunt for more human remains, as well as the whereabouts of his in-laws, originally from China, continues.
And she was dedicated to her boys. They were definitely her entire life.
Next-door neighbor El Ben-Ami was a close friend.
Outwardly, they didn't seem to, be very warm with each other or affectionate or have like some great marriage, but I did not know of there being any issues. But they're very different. She, in the sense that she's very outgoing, very social, and he's not. He's more reserved, quiet.
Samuel Haskell IV is now being held without bail. Anyone with information in this case should contact the LAPD. Reporting live in Tarzana, Chris Wolf, KTLA 5 News.
I mean, he looks like a very unstable person. I'm just saying. Like, apparently with all those, messages of craziness on his social media sites, he just hates everything and everyone. Definitely call people homie. I don't know if that's like a California thing. Is that like a California thing? We just call everybody homie? Like, maybe. That's weird. That's strange. Like, that's the first time I'm actually seeing like him talk. This pictures, right? But not, videos of him talking or anything. So that's the first time I heard anything from the husband that they now have in custody for these murders. Like, that's insane to me. Like, I mean, you'd like to hope. This is where they say he's seen dumping the body. I mean, let's check this out. It's only 45 seconds, but TMZ got a hold of this somehow, some way. Let's see. It's his car, I'm assuming. I'm not even seeing him open anything yet. So he opens the dumpster door. and then goes to the trunk. Oh, wowza. So nonchalantly. Oh, you can see how heavy it is. Look at him. Like, you're crazy, boy. Oh, man. And there's there's someone pulling in to there. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, that right there is crazy. Like, he's legit just dumping a torso into a damn dumpster. Like, I mean, I wish they would find Brian. I wish they would, find Brian Walsh's wife, because he most certainly did the same goddamn thing. But they have not found her remains, and I'm gonna bet he did the same thing. I mean, it seems to be when like these people dump them into dumpsters, we have so much trash here that we don't get they never get found. I mean, on very rare occasions in some places, his phone data shows that he traveled several apartment complexes in different towns where they probably disposed. So that's the thing. If you guys know they disposed of evidence in different places, why wasn't that phone data pulled right away from Brian Walsh? And why didn't they go to every single one of those? Like, first of all, that data, when they found like the hacksaw, they found blood, they found some of his wife's, like, I think ID cards or something, or a purse or something like that. Like, when you found that, which was only 2 days, I think, later, right? When you found that, why didn't you immediately get the geofence data and stop trash collection to anywhere here in Mass? Like, stop it right now and go and check, right? Like, you would think that's something they would do, right? Again, at least you would think. They're not always the smartest cookies. As we know, in some of these cases, they don't do their whole job of knowing what they're supposed to be doing here. It irks the hell out of me, though, because there's so many things they could do if they weren't lazy, if they didn't, like, time is of the essence when it comes to missing people. Time is of the essence. You can't just wait, it's not a thing. Like, let's see, let's pull this up, especially with this guy. It's insane to me that these people get away with this shit and continue to get away with this shit. Brian Walsh is undoubtedly guilty of what he did to his wife. And she knew dirty secrets about him, obviously. when you know dirty secrets about people, they tend to lash out. And Brian Walsh lashed out. Here's what we know. And this was in January they wrote this, but nonetheless, this guy, I mean, look at him. Look at him, dude. Look at him. He just looks like a easy
level of detail as prosecutors laid out their case against Brian Walsh, charging him with murdering his wife, Anna. We learn new details about just the long litany of Google searches they say he made about how to dismember a body, how to dispose of a body, what happens to parts of a body after it's
formaldehyde work.
And then beyond that, for the first time, we learned information about their DNA and scientific investigation. Let's get right to that. Defense attorney Misty Maris is with us, and CNN chief law enforcement and intelligence analyst John Miller back with us right now. John, first to you. You have the Google searches, and you have this DNA found in some of the bags disposed of by Brian Walsh. Didn't have body parts, but it had blood, consistent DNA with that of Anna Walsh.
So if you take this in total, we are far beyond the standard of, is there probable cause to bring a charge or to hold the defendant?
Oh, yeah.
Now, all of this will have to be proven in court. We have to say, the mandatory, he's innocent until proven guilty. But what prosecutors laid out today was an incredible trail of means, of motive, of actions, affirmative steps taken from the Google searches, which were basically a blueprint of questions, and things he planned to do and allegedly did. But the key is, if you got biological material in the basement of the house, if you have the murder kit, which is the tools that were purchased and the Tyvek suits and the things to carry that out, And then on the other end of the garbage dump, after taking it to the garbage by his mother's house, the dump where that garbage goes to be processed, you find the back end of that. It is highly suggestive, evidentiary-wise, that there was a murder, that there was a body, that it was moved and disposed of.
Misty, if I could get you to weigh in, because we've been questioning how prosecutors could weigh a murder charge without a body. And now we've got a treasure trove of evidence from them, as John laid out, some of these Google searches using a friend's iPad, how long before a body starts to smell, 10 ways to dispose of a body, what does formaldehyde do, and it'll be prior to that in December, what's the best place to divorce for a man? What is your biggest takeaway here from all of these searches in particular?
Yeah, great question. So all of these internet searches, and specifically one that stood out to me is, can you identify a body with broken teeth? But all of these searches, very, very damaging evidence. So with a no body murder case, you're going to be basing this off circumstantial evidence. And what I expected is exactly what unfolded in court. It's a map of forensic evidence and placing Brian Walsh in the locations where that forensic evidence was found. This all under the guise of those very, very damaging social media searches that really was that blueprint of his actions, according to prosecutors. So again, the probable cause affidavit, where no-body murder cases are absolutely difficult to prove, here the standard of probable cause is reached, and now this really unveils the mystery of how prosecutors were going to show probable cause for that other charge of moving a body and improperly moving a body. Now we see forensic evidence and a trail of forensic evidence leading to these different locations. So this really put the puzzle together to show the story, which is what was needed in a circumstantial evidence case to establish probable cause.
Right. Like that, I mean, dude's definitely guilty, in my opinion. Like, hello. They found blood. They had the video of him going to like Home Depot and getting all the like, you know, tarps, and like clearly he dismembered her or whatever he did. But the dude's sick. He's a sick dude. Like I mean, yes, it's circumstantial because you don't have a body, right? But even in these kind of circumstantial cases, they have the geofence data, okay? Like, they have the important shit here. Oh, he cut his hair for jail. I mean, in jail, apparently, because I see a, oh boy, it says the state's crime. So this was a couple days ago. That says the state's crime lab, let's see, had finished analyzing evidence. It says in the death of Cohasset's Anna Walsh, lawyers said during a hearing in Superior Court, where Walsh's husband, Brian, is scheduled to be tried on murder charges. He's accused of killing Anna, who prosecutors say was last seen January 1st, 2023. Lawyers at Thursday's pretrial hearing discussed issues related to discovery, the process by which both parties share evidence they plan to present at trial. Brian Walsh's defense attorney, Tracy Minor, said she expected discovery to be complete by the end of the year. In April, Walsh pleaded not guilty to charges of murder, misleading a police officer, and improper conveyance of a human body. The next hearing in the hope is January 23rd. He didn't appear in court on Thursday, also waived his right to be present at the January hearing, so he won't even be there in January, I guess. Court documents, Norfolk County Assistant District Attorney Greg Connor wrote that Walsh suspected his wife was having an affair in December of 22. The two were married in 2015 and had 3 sons who were all under 7. In January 23, she spent weekdays in Washington, D.C., where she worked for the international property management Tishman Spear, returning on the weekends, where her husband and children lived in a rented house. Brian Walsh pleaded guilty to federal fraud charges involving the sale of fake Andy Warhol paintings in April 21. He was under home confinement orders as he awaited sentencing at the time of his wife's disappearance, with the exception of dropping off and picking up his kids from school and daycare. See, that's my problem, right? Is if the man was supposed to be on like home confinement, he should have been wearing a GPS monitoring device that would have told you every fucking where he went. Everywhere. Every fucking where. Why was he not wearing a GPS device? Hello? Like, I get that he didn't really have a record before that. I get that, like, there was no violent things, and that's probably why they didn't. But at the same time, how can you ask for home confinement and not ask for a GPS monitoring device? Because you allowed him to go pick up and drop off kids at school and daycare. Cool, fine, great and all. But if they had had that GPS monitoring on him, they probably would know where Anna Walsh is now. At least where her body is. Now you guys don't know, because somehow, some way, he was able to go to all these different places when he was supposedly on home confinement. Like, whatever. So it says that the family intended to move to Anna Walsh's home in D.C. in July 22, but the plan was repeatedly thwarted by delays in the federal criminal case against him. In December 22, he began to suspect his wife's infidelity. He repeatedly checked the Instagram page of one of Anna's male friends in Washington and had his mother hire a private investigator to surveil his wife and gather proof of her suspected affair. On December 28th, Anna Walsh told her friend that she believed her husband would be imprisoned, that she wanted to leave him and bring her children to live with her in Washington. How to dispose of a human body, a pattern of troubling internet searches on January 6th. So that's 5 days. Took them 5 days to obtain phones and computers. 5 goddamn days to obtain his computers and his phones, okay? Disturbing internet activity was discovered on the iPad of his oldest son. On January 1st, searches include how to dispose of a human body. How long does it take for a dead body to smell? Too bad he didn't say how long, but how long does it take for a dead body to smell? And how long does someone have to be missing to be declared dead? Well, I know the answer to that, and it's 7 years, sir. You're not very smart, are you? Look at him. I mean, just look at him, though. Like, look. Look. Like, I'm just like, how do you not see the face of evil in some of these people? Like, even not mad. Like, just a little perturbed. Look at his face. He's just a little perturbed in there. Imagine this man going fucking nut shit crazy. And, like, which he clearly did. Like, that's just a little perturbed in cuffs. Later that day, internet records show research into human decomposition, disposal of body parts, and methods in cleaning up a crime scene. The next morning, first of all, how dumb do you have to be to Google this shit? I'm just saying. Like, if you don't already know, I guess you're fucked, huh? Like, you're Googling ways to dispose of a body, ways to clean up a damn crime scene, ways to get rid of dismembered parts, how long until a body smells. Like, what in your right mind would make you Google these things? Like, what in your right goddamn mind? I mean, I know I've Googled some stuff after watching some true crime stuff, and I'm like, oh, now I want to know the answer to that. And you're like, oh, Google. But at least you could probably coincide those Google searches with something I was watching at the time, like with TV shows, with, you know, whatever I was watching on my TV at the time, whether it was a documentary or something on Netflix, whatever. Like, but even some of the searches, I'm like, do I really want to know the answer? This is going to look like a really suspect search if somebody magically dies and I'm a suspect. Like, but these were all in succession. Like, bruh. Like, what the hell? Because obviously, as you know, I'm a true crime buff, just like most of you. So it's like, I want to know. Like, if I watch something about something I've never heard about, I'm Googling it. I want to know. I want to look at documents. I want to see what happened. Like, it says the next morning on January 2nd, the iPad's record shows searches into cleaning blood and DNA from objects, removing SIM cards from phones, mixing ammonia, and the location of apparent complexes in Brockton. Oof. Probably where she is. That afternoon, more searches inquired into how long Lowe's hardware store and apartment complexes keep security video. Interesting. The iPad also assessed articles about dismembering a human body. From about 1 to 7 a.m., January 3rd, the iPad visited web pages about the elimination of odor from decomping bodies, detection of blood using fluorescein, and the removal of blood stains from concrete. Connors wrote that Walsh's Cohasset home has concrete flooring in the basement. And then his movements. He traveled to Swampscott, where his mother lives, in an apartment complex. His movements were tracked through cell phone data and surveillance video. In Swampscott, Walsh appeared in a liquor store surveillance video, putting items into a dumpster. That same afternoon, video from Lowe's in Danvers shows him buying 13 bottles of hydrogen peroxide. Later, at a Stop and Shop in Swampscott, Walsh is seen on video buying jugs of pneumonia. Like, you're buying ammonia? Why are you buying ammonia? On January 2nd, security video from Home Goods in Norwell. Like, he's all over the place. Swampscott, Norwell. Like, what the hell? Shows Walsh buying area rugs and scented candles. Connor wrote that the Walsh's babysitter said he changed the downstairs area rugs and kitchen trash can within a week of his wife's disappearance. At 4 p.m. on the same day, surveillance video shows Walsh at Home Depot in Rockland, where he buys 5-gallon buckets with leak-proof lids, a hatchet, plastic sheeting, 24 pounds of baking soda, and a Tyvek suit. So that's what, the 2nd? So January 2nd or 3rd must have been the day he decided he was going to get rid of her. He was going to get rid of her body, and it was already starting to smell. And, you know, how do I do it? Like, that's literally what that tells you. Like, I mean, this case might be circumstantial, but the circumstances around it are pretty telling. And I also think this is one of the reasons why the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office is going so hard on not, you know, saying that anything that was improper in the O'Keefe case, because if you did, you'd be throwing this case into a tailspin. You got some of the same investigators, so that's kind of a problem. Hold on. I'm going to make sure that's not a dono that I'm missing from someone. We have a $10 anonymous dono. Thank you, anonymous. I appreciate that. When you work hard, it's very nice to be for people to say thank you. So it says, on January 3rd, he appeared on video at 3 different apartment complexes. Abington, Brockton, 3 different apartment complexes in Abington and 1 in Brockton. So that's 4. In 2 videos, he is seen taking items from his Volvo to the area of the dumpsters. A 3rd video shows him putting a heavy trash bag into a dumpster. On January 5th, Walsh's phone was traced to Swampscott, specifically to the area around the dumpsters at his mother's apartment complex. On January 8th, Cohasset and state police searched Walsh's home and Volvo. Investigators found 8 red-brown stains in the basement that tested positive for blood. In the Volvo, Connor cited evidence of blood found near the driver's side seat controls, on the passenger floor mats, and in the rear trunk of the Volvo. All the dumpsters Walsh visited, save one, had been emptied before investigators could search their contents, which were shredded and incinerated at a recycling facility. Oh, great. That's great. So that's the thing. Except one. Oh, yeah, I'm definitely pretty sure he did it too, Brianna. That's the thing. Like, if you... Like, dude, come on. Seriously, though. Like, the second that they suspected she was gone, it was like the 3rd, I think, or 4th. Something around the time, like, before the 8th, that's for sure. You should have stopped trash collection. Anywhere. So that you clearly could have got, you know, whatever he was hiding. And if it was incinerated, like, then there goes the evidence. And possibly her body could have been incinerated. Like, first of all, why are things being incinerated? I thought that only happened, it said it was a recycling facility, but usually they sort trash, so I'm confused here. Like, in the dumpster outside Walsh's mother's apartment complex, a January 8th search yielded Anna Walsh's COVID vaccination card and several items of clothing and accessories she was known to wear, including a Hermes watch, hunter boots, a black Prada purse, and a Gucci necklace. In the same dumpster, investigators found rugs with red-brown stains and items known to be purchased by Walsh at Lowe's and Home Depot, including a Tyvek suit, a hacksaw, a hammer, a hatchet, and shears. The Tyvek suit had red-brown stains, Connor wrote, and tested positive for Anna Walsh's DNA. A small bone fragment was discovered in the hacksaw, which was also stained red-brown. At Walsh's arraignment in April, his defense attorney, Tracy Miner, said that in Massachusetts, a missing person is not presumed dead for 7 years, which is true because of the ease with which someone can disappear. There's been no body found. Miner said there is no murder weapon. There is no... Well, I think a hacksaw would be part of, like, not a murder weapon, but, like, you know, a weapon to dismember a body. Responding to the prosecution's claim that Walsh suspected his wife of infidelity, Miner said the hired investigator found no evidence of an affair. Mr. Walsh had no idea his wife was having an affair until he learned it in the discovery of this case. Yeah, except, you know, he had a private investigator following his wife around. Like, come on, guy. Like, And you expect that nobody believes that you, I mean, that's ridiculous. The guy's nutso, period. End of story. Like, you're going to have to like look at the fact that his movements, his Google searches and what they found, if they found that in one dumpster near his mother's, you can imagine what he put in those 3 dumpsters in Abington and 1 in Brockton. Like, and he was all over the place. I think he thought if he bought stuff like Rockland, Dedham, Swampscott, like if he just went all these places that nobody would put 2 and 2 together. Except, hey, newsflash, pal, there's cameras everywhere now, and they can track you everywhere and anywhere. You know those plate readers that you go through tolls with? Yeah, those are also meant to track you. It's kind of the point of why they're there, and you don't go through a toll anymore and just give the money. It doubles as a surveillance thing. Like, if you didn't know that already when those things went up, you probably should have. Like, probably not that smart then. It's like, obviously probably not that smart to be Googling things like, you know, what a decomposing body smells like or how to remove teeth. You know, all this crazy shit this guy frickin'. And then the house. You guys remember the house that they used to have or they used to rent that was on fire like just a few days later? And I'm like, that's kind of suspicious. Apparently they say nothing. It had nothing to do with anything, but that's a really weird coincidence. That's for sure. That's a really weird coincidence. Like, insane. Anna Walsh made a, you know, decent money, and he was kind of like the stay-at-home dad. And I think that, you know, they think he stole from like his grandfather's will too. So that's something they're also looking into. But I mean, in my opinion, the dude, it's my opinion. It's not a fact, but it's an opinion that I think the guy's definitely guilty. Definitely guilty. Like, you can take a lot of cases where there's a lot of circumstantial evidence or even witness statements that are just like, something doesn't sit right here. And then you take this and you're like, wow. A lot of shit this guy did is just straight looking real guilty. Like the Idaho 4. There's a lot of circumstantial evidence there, but at the same time, there's a lot of evidence that makes you go, oh, crap. He probably did that. This guy probably killed 4 people. Brian Kohlberger had some weird tendencies, and he was in the area. And why are you visiting the same area over and over and over? I think it was like 20-something times. Like, hello, McFly. Like, that, it's a little crazy. Like, the Idaho 4 case obviously has more circumstantial evidence than this one. The circumstantial evidence here is definitely more ironclad than what they have there. But still, nonetheless, you can tell that these 2 people were not mentally stable at best. And that's why I say, like, the mental health system here is, in the entire country, is not great. Like, not everybody who has mental health issues is crazy. And I think as soon as we see someone that, like, murders someone, we're like, oh, they clearly had some mental health issues. But mental health issues doesn't make you murder people. There's something else going on in that dome piece. Like, surely does not just make you murder people. That's for sure. All right, we're going on 2 hours here. And I need to get some sleep because I have an appointment in the morning. And my kiddo goes back to school. So give me your last questions, comments, and then we'll wrap it up. Also, if you want to help out the show, you guys know how to do it. There's a ticker at the bottom of the screen that has the Cash App and the Venmo on it. And it's always well obliged for you guys to help out because that is the way I'm able to continue to do this. The ticker just runs on the bottom of the screen. So nothing? You guys got nothing? Shocked. I'm shocked. Usually you guys at least got a good one-liner for me or something. Jeez Louise. All right, well, if there is nothing else, ladies and gents, I will bid you adieu, and I will see you tomorrow night. All right, folks, have a good night.